Hi guys, I'm Jen. Welcome to Be Set Free. Thanks for joining me today. So I wanted to talk about childhood emotional neglect and how that affects us not only in our childhood, but follows us throughout our life, and the different struggles that we have because of it, and different ideas of how to cope with it and understand it and take responsibility for it and change our lives. So I was watching a video of different babies that were shown one at a time playing with blocks, right? So the babies were sitting at a table, each by themselves, individually. I believe there was like the cameraman in the room and maybe another person close by, but you don't see them. And the babies are sitting at the table, and they're showing them with like four blocks or so in front of them. The first few babies they show, the babies are engaged with the blocks. They are handling the blocks. They are looking at the blocks. They are stacking the blocks or attempting to. They are fully engaged with the blocks. Their focus and attention is on the blocks. Now, let me say, all these babies I'm talking about were under a year old enough to sit up in a chair and, focus on a block or blocks. The second group of babies they show one at a time. These babies were more insecure about the blocks. They had the same task in front of them, a few blocks in front of them just to explore and play with. And these babies were insecure about the blocks. You can visibly see that they were not sure if the blocks were something that was safe for them to play with. They were unsure of what they should be doing with the blocks. They looked like babies who had been told repeatedly to stop doing this and stop doing that and don't do that, and maybe yelled at. And so they were unsure. They didn't know that they could just free play with the blocks and it was okay. The third group of babies they showed, those babies were visibly traumatized because they had the blocks in front of them, and not only were they not interested in the blocks, and it's not that they were just tired or hungry, they were babies that had been in so much trauma and so much abuse, you could tell that they couldn't even engage with their environment. They weren't interested in even trying to figure out what these things in front of them were. They maybe even, it seemed like they were in a new situation with blocks, and they didn't even have any sort of self-esteem to be able to even think about the blocks. They were so tuned out. What we deal with in childhood, the way that we are nurtured or not nurtured, affects how we view the world, right? It affects how we view ourselves. It affects how we perceive relationships. It affects how we respond and react to people and situations. It affects our health. It affects our thought process. It affects what we think about and what we don't think about. And when we're neglected in childhood, we're at a big disadvantage because, some of us were completely neglected, and some of us were neglected and abused with verbal abuse. Some of us were, like our emotional needs weren't met. What we learned was that something is wrong with us because our caregivers are not happy with us. We are trying to receive love from them, and they are pushing us away. They are ignoring us. They are acting as if we're a burden. So we grow up and think something's wrong with me. I'm a burden. When we think if I try to get close to somebody, they're going to reject me, so I'm going to push them away. We think I'm not good enough. We think that we don't have like an easy flow with other people, right? Especially the closer the relationship gets. And this all has to do with our childhood programming as to what we learned about ourselves that our caregivers taught us. We didn't know that there was something wrong with our caregivers and that they should be treating us a certain way, but they're not. All we knew was that something was wrong with us because they're telling us something is wrong with us, or something is wrong with us because they're not giving us the attention when we need it. So something must be wrong with us. We never think that something's wrong with our caregiver. We don't do that when we're young. So we have this programmed in our minds. Does this make sense? That something is wrong with us as we go through life. Now, what happens is when we subconsciously think that we are too much, right? Because we can go in relationships and think like, what I have to say and what my needs are just too much for other people to handle. And that comes from this programming, from our caregivers, from when we were little. They made us feel like we were too much. Maybe we cried a lot and we got the clear message, either verbally or subconsciously, that that was too much. It was too much for them to handle. So then we grow up thinking that something's wrong with us, when maybe we were crying because our tummy hurts. Maybe we were crying because we needed a hug. Maybe we were crying just because we needed to cry. But we were taught from a very young age that expressing our emotions makes people upset. It makes our mommy and daddy upset. So then we get into relationships with people, and it really comes out in our close, intimate relationships that we're afraid to say how we feel because we feel like it's too much. We feel like we're not okay. We feel like something's wrong with us, right? So then we don't say how we feel. Or maybe we finally do say how we feel, but we've told a person who's not going to accept how we feel, and they're going to do the same thing our caregivers did, because that's a pattern in our life. We attract people that feel like home to us. We attract people that, or I didn't say we attract people, I'd say we're attracted or drawn to people who will reinforce what we think. And we do this subconsciously until we can consciously realize what's happening, right? And that's why I like to talk about this stuff. So what I did is I started noticing a pattern in my life. I started noticing a pattern in my life that I would attract, not attract, but I would be with people. I would choose to be with people that would validate my sense of lack, right? So if I had an emotion, they wouldn't be able to handle that. If I had something to communicate, they wouldn't be able to listen. These were the people that I chose because that's all I knew. I didn't know a different way. And I started noticing a pattern. Wow, Jen, this is with all your close relationships, right? This is with every man you've been with. They have all been this person. But what's the common denominator here? Me. I'm the common denominator. I'm the one who has been in every single relationship. I'm the one who has chosen to be in all these relationships, right? And so instead of blaming the men I've been in relationships with for treating me so poorly and how I just must be destined to be with these types of men, or this must just be how men are nowadays, what I did was I decided to really bite the bullet and go, Jen, you know, you have a pattern. The common denominator in all these relationships is you. Jen, you need to figure out why. You need to figure out what's happening. Why do you keep getting in these situations? And so I did that, you know. And, you know, people will not want to do this because they think that that's some sort of like victim blaming, like blaming the victim for everything that has happened bad in their life. And it's not. It's taking responsibility for your life, realizing your pattern, learning where your pattern is coming from, and then growing from that point forward. So that's why I bring up the babies. Okay, guys, this is deep stuff, because this stuff is subconscious. This stuff is programmed from the very beginning of our life. This is stuff that is not your fault at all. This is stuff that you were born into this world having to deal with. This is stuff you were born into the world learning about. And, you know, we had crappy caregivers that just, you know, they had their issues. Their caregivers had their issues, and their caregivers had their issues. You know, it's generational. So what I wanted to say also was, you know, when we come out of abuse, right, it's hard to get out, because generally we've had this wound inside of us from childhood, emotional neglect. That's how we got into the abusive situation. We had a wound, and the other person had a wound inside of them. And but when we deal with narcissists, and some just plain old toxic people, but in regards to narcissists and predators and manipulators who do this stuff on purpose, control people on purpose, they see our wound clear as day. They do. And they use that wound we have to manipulate us into falling in love with them. They know exactly what our wound is and exactly how to speak to it to hook us. And the cool thing is, though, is once you have taken responsibility and realized this wound you have, and you start to heal, you go backwards in life, and you heal and you parent yourself. You tell yourself that your emotions are valid. You tell yourself there's space in this world for you to exist. You tell yourself that the things you have to say are important, that you matter, that there's room for you to exist, that it doesn't matter what anybody else thinks of you. It doesn't matter their opinion of you. What's your opinion of you? What does God say about you? Who does God say you are? Who does God say He created you to be? You know? And you start healing these things. You really decide to believe. Believe the truth about yourself. Believe that there's a place for you and that you have the human right to exist, to have feelings and emotions and thoughts, that you don't have to be perfect. You know, and that perfection is just an illusion anyway. Just like, what is normal, right? What is being normal? That doesn't exist. Same with being a perfect person, saying the perfect thing, doing the perfect things. We get caught in these traps as emotional neglect from childhood survivors, right? It's all a symptom. So once we decide to have grace for ourselves in this life, realize where our issues are coming from, we start to heal, right? And we start to really feel good about ourselves. We start to feel good about, we start to feel good about, like being alone, right? We can hang with ourselves. We can stay home. We don't always have to have plans. Having plans is great, though. It's wonderful. But we don't have to have a partner to share it with. We don't have to. Before the time of not having to, we may have felt this really deep, dark hole, like we were falling into a black hole emotionally inside. Like there was a black hole pit inside of us, and we needed somebody there in our lives to validate our existence, to validate that we are okay, to validate that we are attractive, to validate that we are acceptable. And unfortunately, when we need that validation, these manipulators will come in. And that's the hole I'm talking about that they see. That's the wound they see in us. And as long as we need somebody to complete us, we will be having people, we will be letting people in way too fast before realizing who they are. And not giving the relationship time. We will just cling on to the people who tell us all the things we need to hear that we can't tell ourselves. And that's how we become vulnerable to abuse, okay? That is the way. That is why. Because when you heal yourself from the beginning of your life, and you're able to validate yourself, you're able to feel your feelings and emotions. You're able to see the things that have happened to you and realize that they don't define who you are, that you define who you are. If you believe in God and Jesus and the Word, that He defines who you are. Not anybody else, not anything else that has happened. Just you. You get to decide that for yourself. You don't need, and then suddenly you don't need other people to come in and validate you. You're a whole person. When you become a whole person, you are ready to engage in relationships with other people that you are wanting to bring into your inner circle, into your heart, into your very special place in your life, right? And so another thing that happens at this point is maybe we start exploring dating. Maybe we start exploring the idea of, wow, you know, I actually have reached the point I'm ready to have a relationship again. And so what happens is, this is very interesting time as well, because there's only so much growth you can do, which is a ton of growth, on your own, right? But then maybe what you do is you start dating somebody. Maybe you start, you meet a great guy or a great girl. They're amazing and you guys are getting along great. Well, what will happen is, this is where some more of the healing will come out. And this is kind of where you, this is where some big choices and big revelations about yourself will be made, because some of the unhealed parts will start to surface again. Like maybe you were fine by yourself, right? You were fine. You've been single for a few years now. You were fine. And then suddenly you have this person in your life you're very interested in, and they are a very good person. Like you have found a good fit, and you will find yourself in some old undiscovered, or not undiscovered, in some old patterns of wanting validation again, right? Of wondering if you're acceptable or not in their eyes, wondering how they feel about you. And although those are things that I think everybody wonders about, when we've been through abuse and trauma, when we've been emotionally neglected, we can start feeling these things and then start blaming the other person for these feelings inside of us. Because we can't just chill. It can be hard. It's a hard process to learn how to just let things evolve naturally. We've been so used to getting validation in relationships that now that we're healed and we didn't need it and we've been fine alone, but now we're starting to get in a relationship, this old pattern may emerge, right? And so it's at this time that we really need to not only evaluate the relationship we're in, and once we've determined it's a good one, this is a good match, this is a good dating experience, this is a good thing that's happening. So why am I feeling this way? We must ask ourselves these questions instead of just projecting onto the other person, right? We have to go, okay, I am in a relationship of some sort, whether it be a dating, a friendship, maybe building to a future, who knows? But I'm in this relationship, whatever stage you're in, and I am feeling old patterns of, I'm starting to feel bad about myself again. I'm starting to feel clingy. I'm starting to feel like I want some validation and the other person isn't giving it to me. What is going on? And a lot of people will, like I said, blame the other person. But what we need to do at this point is complete our healing. Okay? It feels very strange to have a person that you're interested in treat you with respect. It feels very strange to have the other person in your relationship with not treat you as a piece of meat that they want to get. It feels very strange to be treated with respect. In fact, it can feel like the other person doesn't like you, right? It can feel like that. Because what we're used to is our abusers who came in hot and heavy, right? They came in, oh, you're so beautiful. Oh, you're so wonderful. Oh, you're so amazing. Oh, you're so sexy. Oh, you're so, oh, I want to kiss you. Oh, I want to be next to you. Oh my gosh, I want to be all over you all the time. And that's how we received validation that the other person was attracted to us, right? But what happens with healthy people who don't have these sorts of issues, that's not how it goes. And it can be really confusing. It can be like, wow, I really like this person. I actually don't know if they like me because they're treating us with respect. They're treating us, they're not grabbing our booty. They're not telling us how beautiful we are. They are getting to know our minds and actually talking and communicating with us. And it can be a little off-putting because we're not seeing all the physical attraction. We're not seeing all the lust. This is a respectful person, and we can get confused and think, you know, this person doesn't like me, or this person just doesn't have what I need in a relationship. I need more attention. And as soon as you start hearing yourself say those things, that's where you know, okay, I don't need, and what is this about? Okay, I'm trying to break a pattern here and accept, you know, this new way. And this new way is a good way. And you know, it's perfectly okay as you're healing. See, only this healing, I really believe only this next level of healing can happen in a relationship with another person. It has to be a person that is not giving you red flags, and they exist. There's not a lot. There's not a lot of these people, especially the older we get. But they exist. And I really just encourage you to hold on to your heart and to tell yourself, just slow down. Slow down. If you have any question for the other person, you're wondering if they're attracted to you because they're not telling you, ask them. You know, what do you think how's it going for you in our getting to know me? You know, what do you think about me? What do you think about what we're doing here? What are your thoughts about like our relationship? You know, are you enjoying getting to know me? Are you attracted to me? Do you want to know more about me? You know, are you enjoying yourself? Just ask. And the thing is though, don't ask every day. That's asking for validation, but it's healthy to check in, right? And this is what normal, healthy people do. They'll say, hey, I really like you. Are you liking me too? Okay, great. Just wanted to know. It doesn't need to be you walking by and them grabbing your butt for you to know they like you. We don't want that, right? That's how the inappropriate people in our life have been. We don't want the new person to do this, right? So it's a really good training of how to be treated with respect, right? And, you know, we really need that, but it can be it's scary and it's vulnerable. But what we need to remember is that we're okay. It doesn't matter if somebody likes us or not. It doesn't matter if they see, you know, our good parts or not. Hopefully they do. If they don't, that's okay. It's not your person. It's fine. You're not going to click with everybody. It doesn't matter if this person ends up, deciding that you're their person. Because if they decide that you're not their person, that's okay. You're not their person. Just because they decided you're not their person doesn't mean you're not an acceptable person. It just means it wasn't the right choice for them, right? And vice versa. Maybe you decide they're not your person, and that's okay. But what I'm trying to draw this all back to is the insecurities we have inside because of the childhood emotional neglect we received when we were children, and how that programmed our mind, and how we really need to do the hard, tough work of unprogramming all that crap and getting it out of our mind. Because those programs, those negative programs from the emotional neglect we received, they are not who we are. Those messages are not true as to who you are. And it's very, very important to realize the thoughts that you are having in your mind. The negative thoughts. The negative thoughts are not who you are. We all need to reflect on our actions and our intentions. But when it comes to the thoughts as to degrading ourselves, putting ourselves down, not believing in ourselves, being fearful about ourselves, those are lies. Those are lies, and those are programmed into your brain, and they can be programmed out of your brain. Okay? So if you're thinking these negative thoughts, I invite you to please go back. Please go back and review your childhood. See where the neglect was, and start reparenting yourself. An easier way to say that, I guess, would be start telling yourself the positive things that you weren't told. That's what reparenting is. Start doing the things for yourself that you needed done for yourself when you were little, but you couldn't do it. You depended on your caregivers. Well, now you're a grown up, and now you can start doing those things for yourself. Okay? But really watch your self-talk. And instead of making up stories in your head as to what another person is thinking about you, if you're getting in a relationship with someone or trying to meet people and it's just not working, really, really look at the fruit of people. And if you discern that this person, so far so good, but you're feeling insecure, take responsibility for those feelings. Don't blame the other person for your insecurity. That's the part that you own. They could think you're fabulous, and they probably do. And you feeling insecure, it's just a brand new way for you, right? A healthy person is completely different from an unhealthy person. A person who takes responsibility for their crap is totally different from a person who doesn't take responsibility for their crap. And it takes a while to get used to that. And, just be very patient with yourself, and remember, you love you. You love you. It's your job to be whole and complete, not somebody else's job to complete you. Okay? So anyways, I would love to talk to you more about this. If you have any questions, comments, or anything at all, you can always reach out to me in the comments section, and you can always email me at besetfreefromabuse@gmail.com. And if you want me to talk further about any part of this, please, let me know. I'd be happy to if I'm able to. Okay, God bless you.